Hello brilliant English learners, welcome to Free Academy. Today we're gonna dive into one of the English language wonders. This fact that almost every letter in English may not be pronounced. They are in the word, but just sitting silently, as if they don't exist. So you don't say them, just write them. That's why they're called silent letters. And they are everywhere. In fact, just 3 letters are exceptions. All of the other ones have silent forms. So now you probably understand that knowing them would definitely help you have better spelling or writing skills, as well as pronunciation or speaking skills. To reduce this video length, I'll tell you many of these words, but not all. However, the more common patterns of their silent forms will be revealed, so that your mind can notice the pattern, which makes the memorization part easier by knowing when to expect these silent letters. On top of that, we'll see, does it depend on your accent to make a silent letter? Maybe. We'll go through these letters alphabetically, and at the end, we'll find out whether there are some multiple silent letters coming together in one word or not. Okay, let's jump right in. Beginning with A. It tends to be silent in 2 situations. One, when we have AE or EA, such as in head, bread, spread, and in aerobic, aerial, aesthetic. 2, when an adverb ends in ICALLY, like basically, fantastically, mathematically. B. It likes to be silent in 2 situations. 1, when there is MB, like in plumber, bomb, chrome. 2, when there is BT, like in doubtful, subtle, or the more American version, subtle, and that, or the more American pronunciation, that. C, again in 2 situations. 1, when there is SC, such as in science, discipline, scene. Then CK. Actually, it depends. If you consider the K sound because of K in CK, then yeah, C is silent. If you consider the K sound in both, then no, it's not. Such as in heck, trick, click. D. Again, 2 situations. Mostly when we have DG, like in edge, hedgehog, and budget. And then sometimes when there is DN or ND. For example, Wednesday, Wednesday. Handsome, no hand, some, handsome. E, again, 2 situations. The first one is at the end of a word, and there are a lot of this situation, like in crime, culture, make. However, there are some exceptions too, yeah? Sometimes E at the end of a word is pronounced. For example, hyperbole, epidemic, resume. So you should be a little bit careful. 2, when we have ED, mostly for the second or third part of verbs, like in cooked, changed, caused. F. Congrats, we found an exception. F is eccentric. There is no silent F. And then G. This one has 3 cases to be silent. When there is GN, like in align, design, and rain. 2, when there is GH in the middle or at the end of a word. Here both G and H are silent. And there are a lot, such as in although, fight, tight. Be careful not GH at the start. For example, in the word ghost, G is pronounced, H is silent. And then some G at the start of words, like in gnome, nard, and gnarly, the synonym of nard. And now H. Wow, this is like the master of silent letters. It has 5 situations to be silent. The first one is when we have GH that we saw in the previous letter, and both can be silent, yeah, both G and H. Other examples, daughter, high, flight. Then H at the start, like in air, our, honor. There is a nice exception here. For example, the word herb. In American pronunciation, the first H is silent. It is herb, but in British pronunciation, no. They pronounce H. It would be herb. Situation 3, when there is CH, like chimera, archive, orchestra. Next one, in WH, such as in which, what, white. And then in RH, such as in rhyme, rhythm, rhythmic. And then I. There aren't many examples for silent R, just maybe in business, suit, fruit, recruit, and other situations that we have these words. For example, for suit, it can be repeated in pursuit. Another example, jumpsuit. And then J. J is so unique that it's barely unpronounced. The only example, as far as I could find, is marijuana, or Americans may say marijuana. Marijuana, marijuana. And then K. When there is KN, we have a lot of silent K, such as in no, not, knit. L has 4 forms. Sometimes when there is LD, like in should, could, would. Sometimes when there is LF, like in calf, or the British pronunciation calf, and then folk, yoke. Then when there is LM, like in salmon. And sometimes it depends on your accent. For example, in calm and almond, Americans may prefer calm and almond, but mostly you would hear calm and almond. And sometimes when there is LK, like in talk and walk. M is exceptional, just when MN is at the beginning. The only example that I could find is this one, mnemonic, silent M. And then N, when there is MN, like in autumn, dam, condemn. All have silent N. And then O, it might be silent in 2 situations. First of all, when O comes after E, like in leopard, pigeon, and jeopardize. And 2, it is sometimes dependent on your accent. For example, in this word, the British would say respiratory, silent O. But Americans would say respiratory. Other examples, obligatory versus obligatory, and mandatory versus mandatory. And then P, 4 patterns to be silent. Number 1, when the word starts with P, especially with PS, like in psychiatry, psychology, pseudonym, or the more British pronunciation, pseudonym. And 2, when PS is not at the start of the word, which is not very common. For example, in this word, it is pronounced like course. I'm talking about the plural form of this word and the American pronunciation. Why plural and American? We see later. Situation number 3, when we have the prefix of PNEUM, which means relating to air or breath. Mostly this is for some technical words, such as in pneumonia, or the British pronunciation pneumonia, pneumanic, or the British pronunciation pneumanic. And then 4, there is no pattern for this one, like in receipt and raspberry. And then Q, whether it's silent or not, is dependent on when you have CQ with K sound. Do you consider that K sound because of C or because of Q? If it's because of C, then yeah, Q is silent, like in acquire, acquaintance, and acquisition. And then R. The rule for silent R is a little bit out of the ordinary. Basically, there is no silent R in English, unless you choose how to pronounce words. I'm talking about your accent and your speed. I recommend watching this video about the ways natives like to omit some letters in some words. These are not silent letters, but again, natives may not pronounce them. I assessed 4 letters, including R. Now, back to that accent and speed concept. Talking about accent, there are 2 kind of tendencies for accents, English accents, rhotic and non-rhotic accents. In rhotic accent, you do like R sound and you would say R when you see it in a word. On the other hand, in non-rhotic accents, you don't like that much this R sound, so you prefer to bleed it whenever you can, which happens mostly among the British. When do they make this silent R? When R is in a syllable after a vowel. Consider R in better and iron, and the second R in hierarchy. I just used the rhotic accent. Better, iron, hierarchy. In non-rhotic accent, mostly the British accent, you would hear better, iron, nora, and hierarchy. The first R is at the start of the syllable, not after a vowel sound, but the second R is after a vowel sound. And then when it comes to speed, people with whatever accent may miss R sound because they want to speak as fast as possible. So let's just get rid of R. Then S. We have silent S in some situations, like in island, isle, and debris or daybreak. Silent T. It likes the silence. So there are 4 occasions for this one. First of all, when we have STLE, like in hustle, bustle, whistle. And sometimes when we have TEN, like in soften, fasten, listen. And when we have ET at the end of words, the sound of this ET is A, like in buffet, gourmet, and ballet. And then number 4, no certain pattern. You should just memorize them. Like in rapport, mortgage, and debut. U, 3 situations. When there is GU, like in guitar, disguise, and guest. 2, when an adverb ends with FULLY. Examples, faithfully, hopefully, thankfully. 3, no pattern. Like in building, quinoa, and laugh. V, never silent. Literally, never ever silent. This is the second exception. Yeah, the first one was F. W, 3 situations. First of all, when we have WR at the start, and there are a lot of them, like wrap, wreath, wreck. And WH, like in who, whom, whose. And number 3, no pattern, like in to, sword, and answer. Next silent letter is X. It barely happens to be silent. The 2 of the very rare examples would be faux and rue. X at the end in these 2 words is silent. And sorry you don't see me in this part, somehow the camera managed to stop shooting when I was talking about this letter. Anyway, let's move to the next letter. And then Y. It is, again, never silent. Hooray! The third and last exception. And then Z. Z is silent on really rare occasions. I just found this one. Rendezvous, rendezvous, or rendezvous, rendezvous. And since here you see both Z and S are silent, let's now go through the complexities of silent letters when we have multiple silent letters in just one word. I've chosen just 20. of the more interesting ones. Aisle, asthma, baguette, croissant, or maybe Americans say croissant, candle, Christmas, and now this one. Why I chose just the American pronunciation and the plural form? Because the singular form is just like this one too, and it would be pronounced as core, or maybe the British say core. Remember non-rhotic accents? Core. So you see RPS are all silent. Then we have foreign and foreigner, knowledge, knock, psychiatry, psychology, we talked about them before, yeah? But you see both P and H are silent. And then other situations with P, like in pseudonym, pneumatic, Q. It seems like UE, all are silent. Just Q with Q sound. And then we had this as the last word, rendezvous or rendezvous. Scene, you see both C and last E are silent. Plaque, the British pronunciation, and plaque, the American pronunciation. With this form of UE at the end that are silent, we also have tongue. Then wrestling, no W, no T. And the last one, yacht. Do you know any other rule for silent letters or any other word with unpronounced letters? Comment them, and please refer to the description to see the PDF of this session. I'll see you in the next. Take care and bye.